Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel where my free Linux tutorials reside. Last time I said before we started again, this time we're going to look at directory commands. Back on the first screen you remember my ad hoc tutorials. I still haven't finished installing configure mint, but I will finish it soon. In the last one I said I'd look at iDrive, Dropbox and DigitalOcean. So I'm going to start with that and then we'll look at directory commands. But first, quick plea again, please like and subscribe to my channel and put a comment. It doesn't matter what you put, anything will do. In fact, I thought I'd do a straw poll. Could you comment just on one of the videos and say whether you use VBox, Linux or both, and where you are, your city and country. For example, I use both, so I would post both York, UK, which is where I am. That would be a big help. Feedbacks, questions, suggestions to my email address. Recommend me on Facebook, please. Buy me a coffee if you like. That would help fund things. So before we do directory commands, I'm going to look at iDrive, Dropbox and DigitalOcean. This is my minimal desktop. Changed the picture today. This is a Mancoon cat, queen out hunting. Not mine, although I do have two black cats. They don't look like that. All I've got on here is my shortcut to the CentOS VirtualBox we're using and a desklet. This is Mint I'm using. There's the Mint menu. If you want to customize Mint, you go down here, system settings, and you can change like here. That's where I did the desklet. I do have a panel which is hidden, and you probably noticed I don't like using the mouse. I use the keyboard as much as possible. It's very easy to open things from the panel if you know what number they are. It's easy to remember. So 1 is Firefox, 2 is Files, is Nemo. If I want to open Nemo, I just press Super 2 and it opens. I like it that side. That's super left arrow. Right, there's Dropbox, but we'll look at iDrive first. So if we look at that one, there we go. That's my mail. Right, there's iDrive. iDrive in the cloud oh, excuse me, allows you to store files. So I use it for things like backups. There's a backup there. For the files we're using, there's my classroom. In the classroom, some of the ad hocs have got text with them, not many. That one will go with the install and configure Mint when I finish it. And there's the introduction. So there's the one we're looking at today. Directory commands. So you can use it for storing files, and you can add files by creating new folders, uploading files or updating folders. But what's nice is there's an app called iDrive. There is. It's a bit long way along to remember the number for that one. I only go up to about 8. Just give it a minute to open. Over here are my files, so you can do that. Look at the files. There's classroom, there's introduction. And if that file wasn't there, you can actually put it in the trash, which means you can get it back again if you want to. I can put it back from here. So over here's my classroom. These are my files. In there are the PDF files I use. That's the one we're looking at, directory commands. I can just drag it over here and it uploads it. So that's simpler than going to the website. I really like it. I must admit I was attracted to it because the logo's a polar bear, but you know, that's as good a reason as any. Now Dropbox is different. There's my Dropbox. That has about 12 gig in it at the moment. And I've not paid for that. It's free. You get a minimum, I can't remember if it's 10 gig. you add things on by referring other people. So if anybody wants to use it, please drop me an email first and I'll refer you to Dropbox, and then I get a bit more free space. What I do here, the classroom, which I found there, is actually under data. So, I mean, that's a shortcut. You can just drag these to the left. There's classroom, it's in Dropbox. So if we go to Dropbox Online, which is Super One, it would be Super One if I didn't have two tabs open, there's Dropbox. So these are my files in Dropbox. The reason I didn't use Dropbox is that if you go to Data Classroom in Dropbox, to Introduction, you can view the files, but they didn't look as nice. So there's I3. I didn't like this, and also the links don't work. And there's another problem. Dropbox is not backups. Dropbox is syncing. If I deleted the I3 file from Dropbox on the desktop, it would disappear up here. It syncs. So any changes you make here, any files you add, it keeps coming back up, doesn't it? Go away. Any files you add or delete or change are immediately copied into the cloud. So it's syncing, it's not backups. Don't think of it as a backup. Although, if you delete a file, you can get it back. I think it's brilliant. I mean, if you put Dropbox on two different laptops, as I do, I can update the files here. If this laptop crashes, I can go and open the other laptop. All the files will be there that I previously downloaded from Dropbox. It will download any new files that are in Dropbox, and I can just carry on working. In fact, I could set up a new laptop, install everything from Dropbox, and be back where I was. The things I don't put in Dropbox tend to be big things like ISOs. So they're quite big. They don't need to be in there. They're freely downloadable. Some of the OVAs I use, which are the applications for VirtualBox, they're here. They are actually in Dropbox. No, actually, they're in iDrive. They're not in Dropbox. They're in iDrive. They are backed up in iDrive. And the virtual machines that we're using, these can be quite big. So that one is 8 gig. This one, which dual boots Ubuntu and Mint, is 15 gig. So they're quite large. I wouldn't put them in Dropbox, but everything else I put in there. And the last thing is DigitalOcean, which is why this keeps popping up. DigitalOcean here allows you to run virtual machines in the cloud, I suppose. So they have something called droplets, something else I liked, along with polar bears. Click on more, access the console, and you can log in. I've already got a console open, so I'm not going to do that. Console I've got open is this one. So there I can see all the files we're looking at, all 13, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. So I can use it for what we're doing at the moment. If I shrink that, what I've currently got open here, as well as DigitalOcean, I've got CentOS open, so on. I've got Mint open. So if you remember, this is running Ubuntu. NeoFetch is neat. Tells you what you're running. This is running, oh well, it's running CentOS, but NeoFetch isn't installed. You can install it easily actually. What you do is you do sudo dnf install NeoFetch. DNF or yum, Y-U-M, rather than apt. Password, and that will install NeoFetch. Not the right password? No, it's not the right password. The trouble with having lots of users with my name in them, different passwords. Sorry, use my voice today. NeoFetch down here. says we're running Mint. That not go. Go. Just give it a minute. Shouldn't take long to install. And when that's installed, we're going to look at the next part of the course. Okay, so that's running CentOS, that's running Ubuntu, this one's running Mint. And it doesn't matter, at this level at the command line, everything we're doing works in everything. Slightly different, but very similar. I'm not going to use DigitalOcean, it's a bit slow and two's enough. And what I'm going to open here now is, whoops, wrong way around. You have to be careful when you're in here. When you're typing something out here, and you think you're out here, but actually you're in here, you know, funny things can happen because the virtual machine picks up your keyboard. So I have to remember to be out here if I want to look at what's running and go to that one. So the next thing we're going to do is look at section 3, directory commands. And if you want to look at iStrive, there's a link there. Dropbox, there's a link there. DigitalOcean, there's a link there. And you can always buy me a coffee. Oh. So in this section, see if I can make this a bit bigger. That's Control, Shift and Plus. That's too big. Control and minus, bring it back down again. So in this section, we're going to find out home and working directory, change directories to move around the system with CD, customize the prompt and create an alias, customize the user environment, and create and remove directories. Before we start, however, what I'm going to do here, because the prompt's already customized, and both of these use colors on LS. Actually, down here, a mistake there, I should be in CanM. That's better, that was my home user. That's better. I want one where the prompt's not been customized and you don't have colors. To get that in VirtualBox, I can switch into one of the other users. Now if I tail, which we did in the last section, etc password, we've got 4 users, train 1, train 2, train A and train X. They're all the same. They've all got the same files as CanM, but the way they're customized is different. So what I'm going to do is switch into one of them. I'll switch into train 1. They're all the same actually. What's in them is the same. Passwords are the same, it's just an X. All that's in here is FPT. Now I want all the files back in the home directory, so I'm going to change into FPT. We did this back in the introduction, I think. They're all my files, and then the move command we're going to cover in the next section, file commands after this one, section 4. I'm going to move asterisk, which matches all the files, again something covered in the next section, back into my home directory, which is tilde, something we mentioned before. So there's nothing in here now. If I go back, they're all my files, plus an extra one because we've got the FPT directory. We'll look at removing that in a minute in this section. So I'm going to run these 2 environments and show you the differences, because this one has got a customized prompt and colors on LS. This prompt isn't customized and it's got no colors. So we'll start back here by looking at our home directory. Linux uses sets of variables, and you can view them with the set command. Now there's quite a lot of them, so you're better off doing set piped into less. You can page through them. If you want to find something like your home directory, / this works in vi and in the man command as well. Search for home. There's my home directory. And there are other things there like the host name. My login name, which is train 1 in this case. Although if you remember, you can find your login name by typing ID. So I'm logged in as Train1 here, and I'm in different groups. Down here, I'm logged in as KenM. I'm in less groups. They're different. They differ at the administration level. But at the command line, CentOS, Mint, Ubuntu, Arch, they're all pretty much the same. 99% of it's the same. Now, when you log in, you are placed in your home directory. If I run that cat command again, which was back here somewhere, there are quicker ways of finding it, so I'll show you later on. I don't want to jump the gun. No, it's not there. Okay. Cat, etc. No, I didn't cat it. I tailed it, didn't I? That's why I can't find it. Tail, etc. Password. Right, when you log in to Train1, as I did, it checks your password, which used to be stored there, but is now stored in a separate file called etc shadow, which you don't normally have permissions to look at unless you use sudo. There's my, if I type ID there, there's my user ID, 1033, because Linux does everything by numbers. We do things by names. It doesn't by numbers. There's my group ID. I'm in the users group. I'm also in the wheel group and the staff group. Groups are used with permissions and a few other things. I'll show you that later on. That's my home directory. So when I log in, I'm placed in /home/train1 and I start up a bash shell. If we do an ls/home, you can see the various directories for other users on the system. So user 1 and user 2, we don't use them, they're there for other purposes. Train1, 2, A and X, and I've got 2 users. Same thing here. If I look in /home, on here I've also got Train1, 2, Train A and Train X, but I don't have user 1 and user 2. So I'm placed in my home directory. Now you can find your home directory with echo $home, which is how you view a Linux system variable, which is something else we did last time. We did path, I think. So I am in home Train1. Now the other way of finding out where you are is by using pwd. I shall miss thing there. The guys who wrote this stuff didn't like typing, so the shortcut for that is tilde. Whoops. Tilde. Which I might have used in that previous command when we were moving. It's naughty on me because we haven't done it yet. So if I echo tilde, it comes back as home Train1. That's exactly the same down here. Now the other way of finding out where you are is to use pwd, but that's different because your home directory won't change as you move around directories, but pwd does, because pwd is your working directory. When you first log in, your working directory will be home, whatever user you are by default. However, if you change directories, and you can do that like this, cd the root and type pwd. You do it all on one line, cd to etc, semicolon, separate 2 commands, pwd. Go perhaps to usr bin, and go back to your home directory. Now what I don't like about doing things like this is with no customization is you don't know where you are unless you type pwd. Conversely, down here, because this one's been customized, if I change the root, the prompt changes. Go to etc, go to usr bin, so I don't have to use pwd. It's automatic. You get back to your home directory if you get lost in the file system by typing cd. Neat, isn't it? The other thing you can do is flip-flop between 2 directories. cd minus takes you back to the previous directory you were in. So I was previously in usr bin, and if I do cd minus again, I'm back in my home directory. So you can flip-flop between the two. That's there. And you get back, as I said, to your home directory, CD on its own. So, how does it do it? How do you set this? The way that you do it is to use a variable. The variable is PS1. I can echo $PS1 like that, and also echo $PS1 here, and you'll see that they are different. I just had to stop the video and start again there because I'm sitting next to an Amazon Dot. You know, the thing that plays music if you speak to it? Mostly people call them Alexa, but I've got one in the kitchen called Alexa, so I changed the name of the one here sitting next to me to Echo. Guess what happened and who responded when I said echo $PS1? Yes, and that's why I had to restart the video. So, to get back where we were. This one says /s/v. Well, I know I'm using the bash, and I don't really care what the version is, so I don't see any point in setting a static prompt. You want one that changes. The shell and the version are /s/v. You can use /w to find your current directory, but I don't like that. I prefer the way I've done it down here. You can set the current date and time. You can look at the clock for that. Or this one is useful. You can set the host and username. So if you're working on several different servers and connecting through SSH perhaps, then that could be useful. I like to set it like this. So up here, I'm going to reset my prompt. So PS1 in uppercase equals, no spaces around the equals, in single quotes, $PWD. And then I like to add a colon and a space. Close the quotes. There's my prompt. So now when I change directories, the prompt changes. It's neat, isn't it, like that? You can actually make it in colours, like this. This will change it to red. Actually, it doesn't change it to red, but it does illustrate a point. When you copy this across, what happens is you get an error. You get what's called the secondary prompt. And the reason is we've got mismatched quotes. When you copy things from PDF files, quite often the quotes don't copy. I don't know why or what you can do about it, but they don't copy. So what this is saying is those quotes don't match. I mean, another simple example down here in the one in the notes over there is I can echo hello there. In scripts, you sometimes have to put text in quotes. So you'll often in the script see something in double quotes. Now that's an error. It's an unfinished command. So Linux goes to the secondary prompt. I can finish it with the quotes. But if that happens, I prefer back up here to do Control and C and fix it. So if I change that to a quote, you can get back to the beginning of a line with Control and A. End of a line is Control and E. Beginning of a line, Control and A. It's quick in using the arrow keys. Single quote there. There it is in red. Now I reserve red for root. If I open a new tab and switch into root, the password is root123. On the virtual machine, there it is in red. And that reminds me, because I might have changed directories to somewhere else, that I'm working as root, so I have to be careful because root can delete anything. I've wrecked systems by deleting things. When I've been only a test system, one I've been logged in as root. So I don't want red on here. Get out of here. There we're out. I don't want red. I want a different colour. If I change that to 32, I get green, I think that is. If you change it to 33, you get yellow. You can experiment, see what colours. You can find a list on the internet. Yeah, that's quite nice. I'll have that one. That's restful. You're probably doing that down here as well, although I must admit, I haven't tried it in Mint. No, these we can't. That will do exactly the same thing. Go up there and we'll try the green one. Oh, I forgot to change the quotes, didn't I? That was dumb. Change the quote there, single quote. Back to the beginning. Change that one to a single quote. And change that to 32. There we are. It's in yellow. Pretty. So, now we can move around in both of them and we know where we are, but an LS up here still in black and white, whereas the one down here is in colours. And the way you fix that is to use what's called an alias. Now if you're using Unix, you can use -F to find out what things are. Put it down here as well, that's -F. We'll look at root down here. What it does, it puts a / after every directory. It does links with following that symbol, and it does executable files following asterisk like that. That one, remember, and that one are executable. But you don't need that because if you're, 99% of this works on Unix, so someone out there might be using Unix and watching this and might not have colours. With Linux you've got colours now. How do you do it with colours? That's easy. You say ls -- colour, spelt the American way. Now we've got the same thing. And here blue is a directory, light green or cyan is a linked file. There are no links there, but there are links in bin, I think. Oh, we're not going to come in colours up there, are they? That was dumb. In bin. There we go. These are links. These are executable in green. We could have seen them up here, but we would have had to have said -- colour. Bin. They come out a different format for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Same thing though. Won't worry about that for the moment. So, how do you make it default? Because I don't want to type -- colour every time I want to do something. And the way you do that is with what's called an alias. Oh. Right, command history. The history command is a boon to trainers because they can look over your shoulder, type history, and see exactly what you've been up to. If you want to see just the last 20 commands, history 20. You can rerun commands using exclamation mark. Let me show you how this works with sudo as well. Here, down here, remember when I said that if you tail etc password, passwords used to be stored where this X is, but they're not anymore. They're stored in a file called etc shadow. Now ordinary users can't look at that, but you can look at it using sudo. So what you could do is retype sudo cat etc shadow, or alternatively do an up arrow, go back to the beginning and put sudo. But another way of doing it is do sudo 2 exclamation marks. What that does, it reruns the last command. So now put in my password. Sorry, wrong password again. Oh, beg your pardon, I'm not in there, am I? No. Oh, I don't have sudo permissions. I'll tell you what we'll do. Just as an aside, let's give kenem sudo permissions. Exit from there. Right, back in my own user. My own user's got sudo permissions, and you can tell, this is something we're going to cover later, if you look for the sudo in etc, no, let's look for my user, kdm, in the user, in the file, sorry, etc group. Now on Mint, if you're in the sudo group, you've got permissions to use sudo. On CentOS, you have to be in the group wheel, WHWL. It's different. Now we can add, if we use sudo, we can say use a mod which will change kenem's user and append him a new group and add him to sudo and give his username kenem, like that. You need the password for this user. It's done. Now if I do the grep again, but this time look for sudo, kdm and kenem are in the group. So if I switch back into kenem, it should now be able to do what we suggested. So if I go back and try and cat that again, permission denied. But if I do sudo double exclamation mark to rerun the previous command, put the password for kenem, there are the encrypted passwords. To be honest, I don't use it very much, but you can do that. You can actually run previous commands easily. Let's go back up here. You can run previous commands in history if you want to, in a couple of ways. Whoops, we're in the wrong box. One way is look at the number 113. If I want to run the who command, again, I can just do exclamation mark 113. And that runs who again. That's one way of doing it. But another way is edit the command line, and in particular, get to learn how to use Control and R, because Control and R is really neat. Now the way Control and R works is it does a reverse search through your history. So if we look at my history, there are certain things that I use a lot. So here, alias for instance pops up there. If I wanted to search for that alias command, what I can do is do Control and R, and I'm doing a reverse search. Type alias, and it goes back to the last time I typed in alias there. Control and R again, it goes backwards, finds the one with the error in it. Then it will find alias, then it will find unalias. And you can keep going back until you find the one that you want. And if you don't want it, cancel it with Control and G. There. So Control and G, if you did want to run the command, so for instance, if I want to list in my aliases, it's just an example. I mean, you would go back to something long-winded that you typed, perhaps, to save you retyping it. If I go back until I find the alias command, press return, it lists my aliases. And as I said before, if you've got a long command on there, no, they're not very long, are they? Let's search for alias again. Go back to that one. You can bring it to the command line by pressing return. But if you're editing it, you can go Control and A to beginning, Control and E to the end. There are others, but those are the ones that I use. R in particular, but you can use A and G. The other thing I like is command completion. This will work in your own Linux users. If you're using the VM, if you cd to packages, there are several files in here that I use to install things using RPM on CentOS. The toys we looked at, like Calce, Figlet and SL, Toilet, for instance. Now suppose you want to list one of those files, like CCZE and all that lot. If I type LSC and press tab twice, what it does, it shows me all the files that begin with a C. Now, I press tab twice because there isn't a unique file that begins with a C. If you type in a unique set of characters, there's only one file that begins CC. So if I type CC and press tab, fills in the file name. It's called command completion. It's really useful. It can save you typing all sorts. In fact, if you want to look at Figlet, that's the only file there that begins with an F. So the first tab you press will fill it in. So those are, all these things are there to help you. Aliases, the prompt, command history, customizing the environment, and command completion. And we finish this section by looking at making directories and a bit on special directories. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want that, so Control and G. Oh, I want this back up where it was. Actually, it doesn't matter, I can do what we're going to do in here. So we'll leave it there and we'll look at making directories. Now you make a directory with the mkdir. I can make multiple directories, M1 and M2. Oh, I didn't want to do that in packages. Don't have permissions to do it in packages. If you get that sort of error, cannot create directory, you're probably in the wrong directory. I don't have permissions to do things in there, but I can do it here. Alias. There we go. I've got two new empty directories, M1 and M2. You can also make hierarchies of directories. I could make grandparent, which contain parent, which contain child. It's less typing than grandparent and child. But that only works if I tell it I'm going to do that with -p. And also if you use -v as well, PV, VP in the notes, it doesn't matter, it will tell you what it's doing. So that has created the directory G, P is in G, and C is in P is in G. And you can confirm that by using the tree command, looking at G. So G contains P, which contains C. That's simple. Removing directories, empty directories, can be removed with rmdir. Now I can't remove temp or scr because they got things in them. In fact, you can't remove G directly like that either, because it's got things in it. But you can remove empty directories with rm dir n1 and n2, and you can remove G if you tell it what you're removing again. VP, verbose and parents, we want to remove G and P and C. And it tells you all it's done. So there's M1 gone, and all I've got left is FPT. Well, I don't actually need that, and it was empty, so I can get rid of FPT now. There we go. And you might want to try creating a few directories. What you could do, I mean, this one here gives you a recursive listing of all your files and directories. Do the directory, the directory exercise, because we need it for the next page. So what it says is create a new directory. Again, you call it what you like. I'll go back to M1 again. CD into M1, and has it got any files in it? Well, no, not if you do an ls, but yes, if you do an ls -a. Now, every directory contains two special files, dot and dot dot. You can see them if you do an ls -a. If I go back to my home directory and do an ls -a, there's dot and dot dot. Back into M1, like I said, ls -a, dot and dot dot. Dot is your current working directory. So it's the equivalent to using pwd. So dot at the moment, it's like a variable. It contains /home, /drain1, /m1, and I can use that in a command. It's not easy to illustrate. You can use it in a copy command, but we haven't done copy yet. So I'm going to show you how to use it when you're running a script. If I cd into scr, there's a script in there. Okay. If I cd to my home directory and then cd into scr, there's a script in there called follow. There's lots of scripts in there actually. Now what it does, or what it would do, if you remember, it's a script that you can follow with the tail command. But it won't run because it can't find it. The reason it can't find it is it's not in my path. When I type command follow, like follow ls, it searches this path, local bin, usr bin, dt bin, for the command typed in. If it's not in there, it won't find it. Now you can run it with the full command. You can type home, train1, scr for, no, but you don't want to do that, because as I said, that is dot, and that will find it. So if your current directory is not in your path and you want to run a script that's in your current directory, /script name will run it. And I can stop it with just Control and C. And that's dot. Well, there's more on dot later on. It's used a lot. Dot dot, you might have seen dot dot if you've used DOS. So let's go back into N1. Dot dot is your parent directory, so it's the directory above where you are. So it's currently here, home train1. That's your parent directory. Dot dot. These are just shortcuts. You don't have to use them. They just save a lot of typing. So suppose you want to change upper level, cd ... Takes me up into train, do it again, I'm up into home, do it again, I'm up into root. You can't go down in the same sort of way, but you can cd back to your home directory. I could change into another user by doing cd, go up into home, down into train A, and look at train A's files. So you use ... to change around the file system and then get back to where you were with cd, and you're back home again. Right, one thing left tucked on the end here. Types of commands. The type command can show you what type of command you're running. It's relevant to aliases because if you do type ls, it tells you it's an alias, but it'll also tell you that if is a shell keyword, cd is a shell built-in because it's built into the shell itself. If it's a keyword, because you use it in an if statement, if this is true, do this. Cat is hashed, probably, because we've been using it. Do you remember we mentioned the hash table last time? That's where it stores things that you've been using. And the last thing in this section is about using path names. Every file has two types of path names. They have an absolute path name and a relative path name. A relative path name is relative to where you are. So for instance, I could cat several files by old file, people, and redirect the output to /home /train1 /temp, God, it's feet of typing, isn't it, /new file, like that. However, I could have more easily done that like this and used a relative path name. What I've given is the absolute path name of the new file. An absolute path name begins with a slash. A relative path name is relative to where you are. So I'm currently logged in and I can see temp in that directory. So I can use a relative name and say put it in temp new file, like that. What you'll find is you have to use, actually it's interesting there's a use of the dot there. Because dot is your current directory, that also works if you do /, because the dot is home train 1, temp new file. What I was going to say is that if you're working on your own files, you tend to use a relative path name. If you're working on system files, use an absolute path name. An absolute path name like tail etc password. It's a system file. Or I could have copied what we've got there into TMP. Now TMP doesn't exist in my directory, but it does exist under root. In fact, it's special. It's got special permissions in green. What it means, the permissions allow everybody to write to the directory, but you can only delete, edit, whatever your own files. So it's a shared resource. And to put it in there, because it's a system directory, I have to put a slash before the TMP. And there it's in there. Oh, I should have said the other one is in temp. So, sorry, temp, relative path name. There's new file in temp. There's new file in TMP. So it says there, in general, if you don't own the file, use the absolute path name. If you own the file, use a relative path name. And that's the end of this section. Well, I hope you enjoyed that section. Next time, we'll look at file commands, and then we'll have fun with Vim. I like section 5. just before I go, don't forget, please like, subscribe, and give me a comment. Do you use VirtualBox or Linux, or both of them? And where are you? What city, country you're in? Recommendations. Nobody seems to want to ask many questions, which is a good thing, I suppose. And buy me a coffee if you want to. And I'll see you next time for file commands. Bye for now.